All right, so you really want to know how to work with Kevin Brake.
Well, you've come to the right place because we are diving deep into his Insights Discovery profile.
From October 7th, 2022.
Okay.
Now I know what you might be thinking.
Personality tests.
Really?
But trust me on this one.
This isn't about putting people into boxes.
Right.
It's about uncovering those aha moments.
That can totally change how we approach our work relationships.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
This whole idea of personality analysis.
It's not new.
In fact, it goes all the way back to ancient Greece.
Oh, wow.
Hippocrates,
The father of medicine.
Mm-hmm.
He was already categorizing temperaments back in the 5th century BC.
The 5th century BC.
So we've been trying to figure each other out for ages.
Exactly.
But how does that connect to Kevin's profile?
So Insights Discovery. It takes those ancient ideas.
And gives them a modern twist.
It's built on this idea that by understanding someone's natural tendencies,
You can unlock better communication, better collaboration.
and yes, even better leadership,
So it's like a cheat sheet.
for understanding how Kevin operates best.
Exactly.
And again, we're not slapping a label on him
It's about getting those practical insights.
that help you work together more effectively.
Music to my ears.
So let's talk about Kevin's working style.
The overview section.
Paints this picture of like a real go-getter,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's driven by results, high moral standard.
It screams, let's get things done.
But there's more to it than that, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just about the wood for Kevin.
It's about the how.
He is deeply motivated by improving systems,
By making things better.
not just checking those boxes.
And you see this reflected in how he prefers to work.
He shines when he has got a manager who understands his style.
And gives him the space to thrive.
So someone who empowers him, not micromanages him.
Spot on.
And here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
He's a natural leader.
But not in the traditional, the corporate ladder sense.
He carves his own path,
I can see how that might throw some people off.
especially in a traditional work environment.
Right.
But that independent streak can be invaluable.
In today's world,
It suggests adaptability.
a willingness to challenge the status quo.
Okay,
Now, speaking of how Kevin's mind works,
let's unpack his decision-making style.
oh, this is where it gets juicy.
So the profile highlights analytical.
Definitely a fan of logic and truth.
But here's the curveball. It also mentions intuition.
Now, those two seem like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum.
How does that work?
That's the beauty of it.
It's not about being one or the other.
Kevin embodies both.
Okay,
Think of it like this. He uses logic
to analyze the facts,
and then intuition to connect the dots.
to see the bigger picture.
So he's not just crunching numbers in a silo.
He's using them to fuel his vision.
Exactly.
I could see how that would be so valuable.
Especially in roles that require both strategic thinking.
And practical execution.
Absolutely.
Have you ever worked with someone like that?
Someone who can effortlessly bridge that gap between logic and intuition.
It's quite a combination.
And it highlights something really crucial.
About understanding personality dynamics.
We often think in terms of opposites.
But the truth is we all embody
Different aspects of these traits.
to varying degrees.
Okay, fascinating.
So if we're looking at Kevin's strengths, logic and vision are definitely up there.
But what about potential blind spots
The profile mentions this intriguing concept.
of the opposite type
Yes.
and highlights the helper?
This is where things get really insightful.
Because understanding our opposite type
Can be like holding up a mirror,
to our own strengths and weaknesses.
revealing those blind spots we might not even know we have.
Okay, so tell me more about this helper type.
What are their defining characteristics?
Helpers are all about warmth.
Understanding connection,
They prioritize people over tasks
creating this harmonious.
and supportive environment wherever they go.
Now, you might be wondering, how does this relate to Kevin,
Right.
our logic-driven visionary?
Exactly.
It seems like they're from different planets.
And that's the point.
By understanding the helper type,
We gain insights into some of the things that Kevin might overlook.
or undervalue,
It's not about saying that one type is better than the other.
it's about recognizing the value of diverse perspectives.
So by understanding the helper type, we can kind of anticipate those potential blind spots and find ways to bridge the gap.
Precisely.
It's like having a secret decoder ring.
For navigating different personality types.
I like it.
No.
The profile also dives into some specific communication do's and don'ts when it comes to Kevin.
Oh, I'm all ears. This is the kind of tactical stuff I need.
Well,
Remember, Kevin thrives on logic and efficiency.
so when you're communicating with him, it's all about being direct.
Sticking to the facts, respecting his time.
So no long-winded emails or beating around the bush.
Definitely not.
He also needs time to process and analyze.
So don't expect an answer right away.
Give him that space to think things through.
Got it. No pressure.
Now, what about things to avoid?
So the profile specifically mentions avoiding those overly emotional appeals
Okay.
or trying to control the conversation.
Remember, he's driven by logic and reason.
Makes sense.
Anything else?
Here's a big one.
Don't assume disagreement is personal.
Okay.
He's just wired to analyze all sides of an issue.
And finally, never directly challenge his authority.
It's all about respect.
But how do you balance that with honesty?
Like, if you have a genuine concern, how do you voice it without stepping on any toes?
That's where framing and timing come in.
Choose your words carefully.
Pick your moments strategically.
And remember, it's not about being right.
It's about finding that best solution together.
Okay, solid advice.
Now let's shift gears a bit.
Mhm.
We've talked about how to communicate with Kevin.
But what really motivates him to excel?
What kind of environment does he thrive in?
Well, according to this, he is energized by fast-paced environments.
Where he can make a tangible impact.
He wants to see those wins.
Those measurable results.
He likes to see those results.
And it's not just about personal gain either.
He is genuinely driven by improving systems and structures.
He wants to make things better.
I like that.
So it's not just about giving him a to-do list.
It's about empowering him to find those innovative solutions.
Absolutely.
And that means giving him a certain level of autonomy.
Okay.
He thrives on responsibility and the authority to make decisions.
Okay, so empowering him is key.
But there's this one line in the profile that really struck me. It says it is not possible to motivate anyone.
Only to provide the environment in which they will motivate themselves. What do you make of that?
It's a powerful statement, isn't it?
It challenges that traditional view of motivation.
That's something you do to someone.
It suggests that true motivation comes from within.
And our role as leaders, colleagues, even friends.
As to create an environment where that intrinsic drive can flourish.
So less carrot and stick, more like creating fertile ground for growth.
I like that analogy.
I like that.
It puts the responsibility on us.
To understand what makes someone tick.
And then create the conditions for them to thrive.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing that we can't force motivation.
But we can cultivate it.
And that brings us back to the importance of these personality assessments.
They provide a framework for understanding those individual needs and motivations.
Allowing us to create those more supportive and productive work environments.
And that's where those aha moments come in.
Absolutely.
Those sudden realizations that completely change how we approach a relationship.
Like realizing that someone who thrives on minimal social interaction.
As Kevin does.
Isn't being antisocial.
They're just creating the space they need to do their best work.
That's such a good point.
It reminds me of a colleague I used to have. Who would disappear into his office for hours on end.
Right.
And come back with these brilliant ideas.
There you go.
Exactly.
It wasn't that he didn't enjoy socializing or anything.
He just needed that deep work time.
To really tap into his creativity.
Exactly. And once I understood that,
our working relationship totally transformed.
now speaking of understanding.
There's another aspect of Kevin's profile I wanted to touch on.
Okay.
It mentions that he values being seen as strong and analytical.
Almost to the point of being impersonal. And it even says he might prioritize truth and logic.
Over someone's feelings.
Which could lead to misunderstandings.
Right.
How can we navigate that potential minefield?
That's a great question.
And it highlights the importance of emotional intelligence.
Even in roles that seem primarily logic-driven.
Oh, okay.
You see, just because Kevin might not outwardly express emotions
in a way that feels, well, emotional.
Doesn't mean he doesn't experience them.
Or that they don't factor into his decision-making.
So it's about being attuned to those less obvious cues.
Absolutely.
Those subtle ways he might express care or concern.
Absolutely.
It might be through his actions.
His commitment to finding solutions that benefit everyone.
Or his willingness to go the extra mile to ensure things are done right.
Those are all expressions of care.
I love that.
It's about recognizing that emotional intelligence can manifest in many different ways.
Exactly.
And the more you can understand Kevin's unique way of expressing himself,
the better equipped you'll be to navigate those potentially tricky interpersonal dynamics.
Speaking of tricky dynamics,
the profile also mentions that Kevin can be quite direct in his communication.
Even blunt at times. It suggests that he might not always be prepared
for the emotional responses of others.
Right.
Have you encountered this in your work?
And how can we approach those situations with sensitivity and understanding?
It's a common challenge.
And it often stems from a simple difference in communication styles.
Some people are just naturally more direct.
While others prefer a more nuanced approach.
Right.
Now, if Kevin says something that catches you off guard,
Instead of getting defensive or shutting down,
try saying something like,
I appreciate your directness, Kevin.
and I'm curious to understand more about your perspective,
It's about opening up a dialogue.
rather than reacting defensively.
So it's about meeting his directness with a similar kind of directness, but tempered with empathy and a genuine desire to understand.
Exactly.
It's about finding that sweet spot where honesty and respect intersect.
This has been incredibly insightful.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Kevin's profile,
What's one key piece of advice you'd give to someone?
who's just starting to work with him?
Approach the relationship with genuine curiosity.
Don't be afraid to ask questions
Seek clarification.
and really listen to his perspective.
Okay.
Remember, behind that analytical mind,
Is someone who's passionate about making a positive impact.
and by tapping into that shared drive, you can achieve some incredible things together
Beautifully said. It's all about understanding those unique motivations.
and creating an environment where everyone can thrive.
And who knows, you might even learn a thing or two about yourself along the way.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of these personality assessments.
They're not just about understanding others
They're also about deepening our understanding of ourselves.
and how we connect with the world around us.
I couldn't agree more.
So there you have it.
Your cheat sheet to understanding and working effectively with Kevin Brake.
Brought to you by The Deep Dive.
Remember, it's not about changing who he is
Talk about leveraging those unique strengths.
to create a winning team.